Crossairocean. Uh, I'm an
Sorry
instructor
about
from
that. Keep
Crosshair.
going.
I'm an instructor from Crossairocean, and I am licensed to teach people how to fly. So I'm going to go through this presentation here that goes through the steps required for you to be a professional pilot. And without further ado, I'm going to start this. Okay, Crossairocean, we are located at the Zephyr Hills Airport. It's I don't know where everyone is based specifically, but it's kind of like a little bit east of Wesley Chapel, about 30 minutes, and that's where we're based out of. Um, so you want to be a pilot? What do you need to be a pilot? You need to pass a medical exam. It is commercial medical exams. They are not as intense as what you have in the military. So fairly everyone can pass a medical exam to be a pilot. You need to be a U.S. citizen, or you can have a visa. Um, you just need to go through TSA in order for you to get approved. You need to pass a written and practical test, and you need to also be proficient in English language. Ways to become a pilot, you could go through three ways. You could either go through a university that has a flight program. You could go through a traditional flight school, or you could go through the military. I'll talk about those in a second. The aviation route, so you could pretty much go to a college that has a flight program. This is usually more expensive, and it takes a longer time to finish the program. But you accomplish getting a degree while getting your pilot's license, and at the same time, you have lower minimums while you're trying to get into the airlines. But those minimums are just 250 hours, like I tell everyone. So it's not kind of like worth it if you're looking to like save money, because to me, this is the most expensive route to take. Period. The traditional flight school, which is what we are at Crosshair Ocean, is a pay as you go model. You have a bunch of instructors. You can pick from any instructor you want. You don't have to stick to one instructor. If you don't like one instructor's method of teaching, you can go to another instructor until you find someone who is able to, suit your method of learning. You could rent the plane and an instructor as needed to complete your licenses on your own schedule. You can work while doing this. You can work part time, work full time. You can decide to fly on the weekends. You can decide to fly 5 days a week. It's your call. It's up to you. And to me, this is the most cost efficient and time efficient, cost effective and time efficient, way to go, because you can literally finish your aviation, your program in, if you get up to commercial in 18 months, a year and a half, if you're really serious about it. So military training, this is where you go to the military, and the military trains you. It's more stricter. It's more difficult to get in. You have to already have a bachelor's going in. Need to be commissioned. You need to pass the aptitude test, and after all that, you also need to have 10 years of service because of the investment they've put into you. But on the flip side, when you come out from the military, it's very easy to get into the airline. So that's an option if you would like to go through the military as well. So, like I said, the aviation degree is the most expensive. The traditional flight school is less expensive. Takes about 5 to 6 years and an average of 250,000 to get your license with a degree, and then it takes about 2 to 3 years. This is 2 to 3 years is probably getting to your minimums to go into the airlines. That's probably how long it's going to take you to go to the airlines, and it's most cost effective, and your schedule is flexible. All right, Crosshair Ocean. Like I said, we do our private. We offer private pilots, instrument, commercial, multi-engine flight instructor as well. So we'll pretty much do everything the whole nine. Private license. This is the first license you're going to get when you start training. It's your license to fly. You can take your family up. You can practice maneuvers. You need 40 hours of time to fly this. But at the same time, you also need to understand that you can only fly when the weather is clear, when the weather is visual. You can't fly in bad weather. You can also not be paid to fly. You can take your family out to fly. And then that brings us to the next license instrument. Now, instrument rating is pretty much a license that helps you to fly in weather conditions that are not visual. So IFR conditions, when you're training for instrument reading, you train on solely by the reference of your instruments. So that helps you build proficiency to be able to fly that aircraft in weather conditions that are other than normal or visual. So you can fly into clouds, safer when flying instrument because you're always getting vectors from ATC. So they're keeping you, maintaining like separation from other aircrafts and all that. So instrument flying is fun. And then you have commercial pilot license, which is once you get that license, you can get paid to fly. You have more advanced piloting skills. You fly complex aircraft, and you have about 250 hours of flight time to get before you get to commercial. So that time between your instrument and commercial, when you're time building, it gives you a whole lot of real world experience in flying because you get to fly into different airports. You could decide to fly, to the Bahamas if you wanted. And yeah, it's a pretty fun time because it really builds your flying skills as a instrument pilot going into commercial. And then we have multi-engine. Multi-engine allows you to fly a multi-engine aircraft. You you need to have the multi-engine license, a multi-engine add-on on your license to be able to fly for the airlines because the airlines they always ask for multi-engine, and the minimum requirement for you to have in hours in order for you to go to the airlines for multi-time is 25 hours. So you got to keep that in mind. And as a flight instructor, you can teach people how to fly. You can get and also get paid for it, which is what I'm doing right now. You can build flight time quickly. You can be a role model to students and gain experience and build flight time. These are the aircrafts we have here. The four, I think there's a couple missing. Well, we have, I think in total about five aircrafts. Top left is a Piper Cherokee. The one top right is Alto, direct Alto. It's a light sport. Bottom left is a Seneca. Bottom right is Cessna 150. Pretty cool planes to fly. So this is just the pilot career path from being a flight instructor over here. You can decide to either go feeder cargo, regional airline, or corporate pilot. You know, if you become a corporate pilot, you could pretty much make that a carrier. If you go to the regional airlines, you can make that a carrier too, or you can decide to go to the major airlines. That's also, that's an option. You could decide to go to the feeder route, the feeder cargo, which is kind of like a regional airline for like cargo companies, and then you could go to major cargo eventually. So there's options. You don't need to be a flight instructor to build time. You can be a pipeline patrol, skydive pilot, or aerial survey pilot, or banatoon. And your certification progression usually is commercial, 250 hours of flight time required to, and you're required to work as a pilot. Flight instructor is separate from a pilot license, and your specialized ratings are available. And for you to have your ATP, you need 1,500 hours of flight time required for 121 operations. 121 operations are pretty much airline operations. And then your type rating is when you have large complex aircrafts like the 737, A380s, and all that, you need that to fly. You need a type rating to fly those aircrafts. If the airline is not, something you want to do, you can decide to go through law enforcement, aerial firefighting, charter pilots, crop dusting, or EMS. That brings me to the end of my presentation. If you do have any questions for me, please do let me know. Um, I will be looking at the chat down here. I left the email to the fly school right there in the chat. So just let me know if you guys have any questions, please. I think you're mute. You're mute.
Well, I thought it unclicked. I guess not. I had a question while we were waiting.
Yeah.
Do some people do this just as a hobby? Like everyone who comes to flight school is not necessarily doing this as wanting to do this as a job, or what do you see more often?
I mean, most times you see people coming in, to coming to train because they want to make it a career. They want to make it their lives. But you from time to time you receive people who come in and they just want to do it for fun. They just want to fly, know how to fly a plane. So with that, all you need is probably a private license, and if you want to fly in bad weather, you need an instrument license, and you're good. So yeah.
Interesting. I don't see any questions on my end. Do you have any coming to you?
Nah.
No. So I was interested in something else that you mentioned in the pay as you go. So as you were wanting to pursue more hours and more licenses, you just sort of pay as you make that decision. So it's not like a set program necessarily that you're going to go through all of these licenses, but or add-ons to your license, but you just as you decide, you can say, okay, now I'm going to add this, and then you just pay for
Yeah.
it as you go.
Yeah. Like if you already come in like knowing what it is you want to do, there should be there's kind of like an estimate. Like for example, there's an hourly rate for like the planes and the instructor. So when you know that hourly rate, then you can look at the minimums that the FAA has prescribed, and then probably add like I say like a 30% buffer to that because you don't usually kind of like get your hours in or get your license in the minimum required hours. In my experience is like it mostly goes over. If they say you get your license in 40 hours, just think about it, 60, 70 hours. So that's how it is. So if the plane costs about say $200 an hour to rent, you multiply that by 70. That's probably how much that's going to cost, including your check ride fees and all that. So, yeah.
Well, that is good to know. So you can kind of plan ahead what your time frame might really be,
Yeah.
depending on how fast you're trying to get through
Yeah.
the different programs.
Hmm.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Any further questions for the chat, guys?
Think they're shy.
Maybe you're thinking really hard.
Either that or the presentation was comprehensive.
I mean, there was a lot of information there. Honestly, it's been very interesting to me to learn uh, just how all of this works. And I really had no idea that there were so many career options. Like it's not
Mhm.
just flying a plane for Delta or Allegiant
No,
or
yeah, yeah,
there's a million other things that you can do
yeah,
with your pilot's
yeah.
license and even as an instructor. So if you really enjoy flying and you enjoy teaching, it's a
Hmm.
nice,
Exactly,
marriage between those two.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
I
and as an instructor, it kind of like opens you into like the different psychological factors of teaching. You come across different personality types. So you have to kind of like be more um, independent and individualistic when it comes to your teaching method. You can't teach one person the way you teach the other person, because it might not just click for that person. So you have to come up with like creative ways to be able to pass the knowledge down and ensure that you're giving the student the value for his money. So it's quite interesting.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we understand that in Pasco County schools because we're always trying to do that for our students too, to make sure that they're getting the best student experience that they can and
Yeah.
they're ready to go out into the world and do whatever it is that they deserve to
Yeah.
do when they graduate or they want to do. So you people like you coming in and presenting really opens up some options that they might not have known that they have. So we appreciate you being here. And it looks
Definitely.
like if we don't have any more questions, then um, I think we can probably, I'm going to stop this recording.